yada, yada. If only someone would call now that we also mock mercilessly normally, but it was brave enough to actually come on the show because I ran into him at CNN yesterday. Why? It's Alex Castellanos. Hello, Alex. Good morning, Alex.
Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie. I think I've called the wrong number. This is the show?
Yes, I think. You're not sure what you've gotten yourself into.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you, too. Exactly. I ran into you at CNN yesterday, and I said, we normally mock you mercilessly. Will you come on the show? And you said yes.
Absolutely. Hey, the best political team that calls itself the best political team is happy to be here.
That makes you either brave or crazy or both. But it's good to talk to you. This is gonna be a tough time for you right-wingers, isn't it?
You know, I've been asked by a lot of reporters, where are the Republicans drinking? What bar are they low at? And I think, first of all, they're in either Miami or Las Vegas. They're not here. But Republicans are not actually that depressed. You get depressed maybe when you're the Gore campaign and you think you've lost unfairly to George Bush. But Republicans kind of think that, hey, you know what? There's some things we could have done better.
Right.
We got beat. And that's not entirely unfair. Now it's time to renew ourselves. The ball's in our court. Let's just do the job.
Well, I have an 85-year-old Republican mom, and I was saying that she actually read this letter she wrote to George Bush, in which she said she expressed admiration for him and all the things he's had to endure on his watch, as if he didn't cause any of them. Is there a big pool of people like that on the Republican side?
I'm sure there are probably too many. There are people that try to block out the sun with one finger and see that America looked at Republicans this time and said no more. And there are reasons for that. Now, I do think, we spent too much. There's a lot of things that perhaps we should have done better. There was this hurricane I heard about in Louisiana. Perhaps we should have handled that better. But, the president should get credit for some things, and I think history will give him credit for some things that he did a little better than some folks may say now.
And what would those things be?
Well, if you had said after 9/11 that we wouldn't lose another single American life in this country to terrorism.
But Alex, we didn't have an attack on our soil why doesn't every president get credit for not having an attack? I mean, the worst one in history happened on his watch.
Yes, he did, and you can give credit to that for not just the guy who's been in office a year, but the folks before that. But he did keep us.
It was Bill Clinton's fault, 9/11?
Yeah, Richard Clark's fault, especially.
Kites fly when the wind blows, and the terrorism, that storm came on George Bush's watch for the past 7 years. You're not going to say that it wasn't tougher to do the past 7 years to keep America safe from terrorism than it was before.
Well, after you've already ignored 52 FAA warnings and a presidential briefing memo and let it happen on your watch, yes, I would imagine we looked more vulnerable to terrorists then.
We've taken Libya off the table as a terrorist nation. If there are a lot of people on the left saying that, we're going to lose in Iraq, we're going to lose 100,000 Americans, 40,000 Americans. If you said, we've lost, and sadly every life is precious, but 4,000, I think that displays a president who's conducted a war with great care for American lives. So I give him credit for that.
Iraq has been conducted with great care?
With great care for American lives. Yes. I think that's fair.
Well,
agree.
Well, maybe. Yes, but we shouldn't have thought it in the first place, should we? By the way, this is really fun when you can talk back and you're not just a soundbite.
Well,
it's like playing with a cat toy.
Scratch away. I think the Democratic Party should get a lot of credit for, especially, this week. It's a good time to look back at the Democratic Party that has stood up so courageously for civil rights in this country, when many, even in my own party, did not. But I think today, when we look around the world, there's a global struggle for human rights and for civil rights. The thing I think this president will get credit for, and maybe some of the Democratic Party won't, is that he said that freedom and democracy belong to all. And he's planted those seeds in the Middle East. And I think that's an important thing. And history will judge him kindly, and maybe
the president
on the left may not be judged as well.
The president has planted the seeds. He's like a little freedom Johnny Appleseed. He's planted the seeds, and we don't actually have That's how he's planted the seeds?
Well, it's not perfect and it's not working as well as we'd all like. But
and we shouldn't have done it in the first place, should we? Let's get back to that question.
There was a country that violated the 14 UN resolutions where there were torture chambers that were found.
Well, yeah, we took those over. It continues. And they just got new ownership.
Mass graves. Well, no. There's been quite a bit of progress in Iraq, and you know that's true. So,
Progress.
Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis been killed.
And in that maybe 1 million Iraqis are dead now that weren't dead previously.
Actually, that's kind of slightly exaggerated, like Al Gore.
According to Lancet.
That's according to Lancet, right? But even if it's 100,000, that's 100,000 Iraqis that wouldn't have been dead, right?
Well, no, actually, they were doing a pretty good job. There were lots of mass graves all over Iraq. And so now at least there's a democracy where they can try to stop that themselves. So let's give them a little credit. Hey, I think that's as exaggerated as Al Gore's global warming predictions this week in Washington.
You know, it gets me.
Winters does tend to get cold, That doesn't mean global warming isn't occurring.
Hey, if Gore was, I wish he'd predict 20,000.
Oh, so it's Al Gore's fault, this economy, actually. It's not even Clinton's fault. I see. Oh, Alex, you are too much fun. You.
Failed for it.
I'm here in the middle of the Obama inaugural because I think that's what ever looked for a Republican like me, and there's a few of us left now.
Yeah, you really are. It's like talking to a Sasquatch or something. It's really quite fascinating. Because no, I will never agree with you that you have to give George Bush some credit for Iraq. It was a completely illegal and unnecessary war. Why would I say he deserves some credit? He took us into an unnecessary war on a bunch of lies.
Well, he certainly wasn't lying about the torture chambers. He wasn't lying about the mass graves. He wasn't lying.
So you don't care if he was lying about the other part?
If that's the case, then Israel was lying, then the British were lying, then every other intelligence
Alex.
was lying.
Oh my goodness. Let's blow the dust off that talking point.
Okay.
Oh, Alex, what's it feel like to be you during this week?
Hey, it's fun. It's wonderful to see America's capacity for renewal. It's been, this year we have heard